So welcome everybody. My name is Jennifer Ferre. I'm the Executive Director of WNC Communities, and WNC Communities is an organization that has been the manager of the WNC AgOptions program for about 10 years. So I'm going to start off today by just going through a little information about the background of AgOptions quickly, so everybody knows what the program's about, and then we're going to walk through the process for 2020, including going through the application step by step so that everybody can understand a little bit more about the information that we ask of you in our grant application process. So how did AgOptions started? Well, actually, AgOptions is a program of North Carolina Cooperative Extension. Back in 2003, when the landscape of Western North Carolina was changing agriculturally, a lot of farmers were getting out of tobacco farming and looking for alternatives of other kind of ways to take their farming businesses. So leaders in Western North Carolina, knowing that there was an opportunity, looked to the North Carolina Tobacco Trust Fund Commission, which was set up to help distribute money from the master settlement that happened in the late 90s, and received a grant that they took and turned into a grant where they gave small cost share grants to farmers in Western North Carolina. So that's how it got started. So right now, it's a program of cooperative extension, but it is also managed by WNC Communities. Like I mentioned before, WNC Communities is a rural economic development organization that has been in existence for actually over 70 years in Western North Carolina. Works with rural communities, and as we know, you cannot separate rural communities from agriculture, so also involved in agriculture programs too. So it's just some of the things that you may not realize WNC Communities has been working or responsible for are things like the Ag Center, the Western North Carolina Farmers Market, the Arboretum, the Livestock Center in Canton. All of those institutions sort of were birthed out of WNC Communities. So we're very proud to be managing the AgOptions program. We've done it for a number of years. And of course, we wouldn't be doing this without the North Carolina Tobacco Trust Fund Commission. They're the ones that have given us money to fund the program. And they're the ones that make this possible and the grant possible for y'all. So what is the mission of WNC Communities? Just really to build sustainable farming communities in our mountain regions by giving resources directly to farmers. And that's the key here with our grants. This money goes to you so that you can expand, diversify, try something new on the farm, all in the hopes that this grant is going to help make your farm business more profitable, more sustainable, keep your farm in farmland, and keep you farming. So what are the goals? Again, the main goal was to assist tobacco farmers and those who are in tobacco-dependent communities. And let's just be real, even today, with a lot of people out of tobacco, the loss of that economic engine in our region is still being recouped. So that was one of the main goals of the AgOptions. We want to help minimize financial risk. You want to try something new, you want to expand, you want to do something different on the farm. This grant is going to help minimize some of that risk. But not only is the money going to help, what is really great about AgOptions in our, over 15 years in operation, we've created this incredible network of resources that are going to be there to help you. So through extension and through our partners, through ASAP, through our folks at USDA in marketing, we've got resources that are going to help you have the resources that you need to be able to market your business, to have the best resources available for you to help you be successful. And another big part of our mission is we want to help the agricultural community as a whole. So we sort of look at these AgOptions projects. If you're doing something that's maybe a little innovative or a little new, maybe it's got a little bit of risk involved with it, we're okay with that. Because if it's something new that you're trying on your farm that others might be able to replicate, we're very excited to help with that. So that's another thing too. If what you're doing on your farm could help somebody else, and maybe something that you're doing on your farm doesn't seem new to you, but for somebody else, that might be an option that they had never thought of before. So we're hoping that through your projects, we're going to help inform the agricultural community as a whole through what you're doing. And we've had a lot of great accomplishments. Since the 2004, over 600 farmers in Western North Carolina have received over $3 million in grants. So $3 million have gone into our region. We do have a large footprint. We cover the West District of Cooperative Extension, which is 21 counties plus the Eastern Band. So it's a large footprint. But what's really great about these grants too, and I've seen this now that we've had our program going for so long, is we're seeing that farmers are getting economic benefit from the year they received the grant. But a lot of time that grant is just what you need to institute something on your farm that within 2, 3, 4 years is really going to start transforming your business and really bringing in the transformation that you've seen. So when we've seen that now too, and it's evident, like 40 to 50% of all the farms that are on the ASAP Farm Tour are Ag Options recipients. So we'll see them in the news. We'll see them, doing innovative things. So we're proud to have been able to support those farm businesses that have been able to take it to the next level. So that's our footprint. I assume everybody in here is, and everybody watching, that you are in this footprint, which is the western part of North Carolina. It is the West District. So it's on our application, it's on our website what those 21 counties include, but that is our footprint. So now I'm going to talk a little bit specifically about the 2022 application and the process coming up. As you all know too, we've got a late start, but we think we'll be fine. Our deadlines are coming up. The application deadline is not until December, so you've got plenty of time to work on this. But we did get a little bit of a late start right now. Some really great news is that we've upped our grants. So in 2022, we're going to be able to give out $4,000 and $8,000 grants. Can't believe it. For so long, I've said 3 and 6. So that's a great opportunity for folks to try a little harder. And just real quick, just to show you, we have a process that we go through if you receive the grant. So you see the bulk of the money at the beginning of your project. We have a business planning requirement. We want you to be successful. And one of the most successful things that you can do for your business is have a business plan. Maybe you already have one. That's great. You can check that off. Maybe you've never had one before. That's okay too, because we're going to help you write one if you've never done one. So we have a business planning requirement. You get a next allotment when that business plan comes in. And then we hold a little bit of money until you fulfill all of the requirements of the grant, which is nothing more than filling out some paperwork, being available for a site visit, and some other things like that. So who should apply? So you have to be a North Carolina resident. You and your project must be located within our 21 county and Eastern Band footprint. We are assuming that you are a business and that you are a family farm. And when we say a family farm, we mean that you and your family are the ones that are making the decisions for the farm. So we're not really looking at not-for-profits. We're not looking for corporate-run farms. We're really targeting small family farms. Your request needs to be for things that are directly related to your project. We're not just farming general purpose grants. This is not just for a general purpose tractor for your farm. Maybe it's a specialty tractor for doing something special that you're doing. That we're interested in, but we want it to be project-based, not just equipment-based. Agritourism counts too. So that if agritourism's been very a good income source for some small family farms, so that's definitely something that we fund too. So just really quickly, because one of the questions that I get a lot are, what kind of projects do we fund? We fund pretty much anything that is related to agriculture. We have done everything from back here, I have just listed some things. So livestock projects, specialty livestock, breeding programs on your farm, cattle handling equipment, anything related to livestock that we've done before, fruits and vegetable projects. And again, it's the nitty gritty of the fruits. Maybe you're expanding your berries, or maybe you're trying different varieties. Or maybe it's the market you need help with. You need a refrigerated truck to help get your fresh product from your farm to the restaurants. Maybe you need a better marketing plan, and you need some marketing materials and a new sign. That would be something too. Anything that you can show us that's related to your project that's going to help you be successful. Season extension, value added. Value added has been a very popular thing that we've been giving grants to in the last couple of years. Agritourism, like I mentioned, nurseries, ornamentals, native plants. Again, it runs the whole gamut of agriculture. Specialty group plants. We've done some hemp projects. We've done some ginseng projects, bamboo shoots. So there's just a wide range. And of course, beekeeping. Beekeeping has entered that too. So just a couple of things to know about our process, though. Like I've mentioned, we are supported by Tobacco Trust Fund Commission. And the goal of our program was to address former and current tobacco farmers. So if you do have a history of tobacco on the farm where you're at, if your family grew tobacco or if you used to grow tobacco, you are going to get some priority in our system. Also, we're targeting folks who are full-time farmers or get most of their income from the farm. So you'll get a little more priority in our process if you get more than 50% of your household income comes from your farm. Also, we are targeting legitimate farm businesses. We have no problem with folks that are doing hobby farms, but we're really trying to support people who are trying to make money at their business. Now, not to say that you may be in that transition period where you're trying to go from hobby farm to farm business, and that you're more than welcome to apply. Just to let you know, other folks are going to have a little bit of priority in that system. And also, if you've never received a grant from AgOptions before, you will get priority. And what that just means is we allow you to get up to 3 AgOptions grants in the life of your farm. So what that means is you can apply again, but you will get docked just a couple points on the application to give those who have never gotten a grant before a little priority. That being said, we have 40% of our applicants last year were repeat grantees. So that doesn't mean you can't get one if you've had one before, but we just want to make it very clear that we're trying to target folks who have not yet had a grant. So it's a competitive application process. Your application comes in, we assemble a team of agricultural experts throughout the region. Ag agents, folks from Soil and Water, people from ASAP, just folks that are knowledgeable about farm businesses. A team of reviewers review your application. So it's not just one person's opinion. It's anywhere from 3 to 5 different people will review and score your application. We have a numerical system. Talk a little bit more about that when we get into the application. That numerical system is ranked, and that is the primary way that we evaluate applications, by the strength of the application. So what kind of things can you spend what can be spent with the grant money? Pretty much any expenses, like I said before, that you can show in your application that are needed to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So that could be anything, like I said, from seeds, fertilizer, plants, amendments, but it could also be trainings. It could be advertising, packaging, anything that you need to help support that project. You make a good case for it in your application and show how that is integral to accomplishing the goals, and that is something that we would consider. Things that will not be in your budget would be farm labor. So that's your labor. So your and your family's labor is not something we'll cover. If you're going to do a project that requires labor that you're going to hire, and that's something that's definitely going to be in there. And you can even put your time and your family's time as an in-kind match to show that you are putting that in there. That's fair enough. But that's not something we would directly support you in on the funding. Of course, any kind of pre-existing farm debt would not be eligible, and any purchases that fall outside of our grant period. So what that means is this year, if everything goes to plan, we'll be sending out the notices mid-January. So as soon as you get that letter in the mail that says that you received a grant, any purchase you make from then on can be applied to the grant. So what that means is, and believe me, I get calls every year in December when someone said, oh, I put an application in. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but I have this chance to get a really good deal on some stuff that I can buy right now that I had in my application. If I buy it now, can I apply it to my grant if I get the grant? And the answer is no. No, it has to, your purchases would have to be once you receive the grant and anything in that period. Any questions about that? So it is our intent. Oh, yes.
Does this count as AgOptions orientation?
No, this is not the orientation. This is an information session, but you know what this does count as, and I'll talk about it later. This counts as your intent to apply. So this being here, if you're physically here, if you're watching, you'll have to get a hold of your cooperative extension agent, but we're going to communicate with anybody that's here in person. Our intent is to award grants throughout our entire footprint. So what that means is if we receive qualifying, and that means grants that scored high enough and are qualifying grants, we will try to get one of those in every county. Now, that being said, it doesn't always happen. Sometimes we don't get any grants from a certain county, and if we don't, they won't get one. And sometimes we don't get projects that score high enough from a county. So the number one thing on our steering committee's minds when they're reviewing making final selections is we want to support projects that we think have the most prospect for success. So that's number one. But if we're able to give one to every county, we try to spread that around. So that's just, we want to be upfront about that because that's what we're trying to do. So here are some important deadlines. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube, these are all in the application that can be downloaded at our website, WNC AgOptions.org. And if you guys have the application, it's in front of you now, it's all in there. But the intent to apply deadline is November 12th. So that's coming up. What that means is like I said, we're a program of cooperative extension. You will be sort of partnering with a cooperative extension agent on your grant. So just let them know, if you're even thinking about applying, let them know by November 12th that you're interested in applying for the grant. That way they can make some time to meet with you so that they can review your grant, give you some tips. They're a great resource for you. Our ag agents are familiar with the AgOptions program and will be a great resource for you. So make sure you get a hold of them by that November 12th date if you're interested in applying. Then your next big deadline to look for is the applications are due, and they're due on December 17th. So you can get them done before Christmas. We will accept them. I don't have an online form yet. We haven't gone into that world, but you can fill them out, scan them, email them. You can physically bring them to the office, but the most important thing is they need to be at our offices at WNC Communities in Asheville, which is by the farmers market, by 5 p.m. on December 17th if you're physically doing them. If you're going to email them, I need them by noon on that same day. That's just to make sure that everything's there electronically. I can read your files, and if not, I've got time on that day to get back with you on that. So that's your next important deadline. Then we will be doing our review right after the new year. So on the 3rd and the 4th, those are the 2 days that our crew is going to get together, and we're going to review all these applications. I like to give you that date because every once in a while, one of the reviewers will have a question on your application, and sometimes they need to call you. It doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it does. So I just always like to let you guys know, those are the 2 days that the reviews are going on. So if you happen to see a phone call come from a number on those 2 days, you might want to go and answer it. Just because we may have an important question that might have some bearing on your application. Then the week of January 24th is when we are shooting to have our letters of acceptance and out so that you'll know if you got the grant. And then the orientation that is mandatory is on February 17th, 2022, and that will be in this room in person if everything goes well. And everybody's healthy. We'll have it right here in this room, which is at the Mountain Horticulture Research Station in Mills River. So that is the timeline of the project. So real quick, I'm going to recap. This is in the application. but it's important information to know. Recipients must reside, your projects must be in the 22 county or unit area. Your recipient must be a family farm, one that holds the financial responsibility, takes the risks, and provides the majority of the management decisions for the farm. You will be providing a 10% match. So what that means is if you, and I'll go over this in the application, this is very clear in the application, if you are awarded a $4,000 grant or requesting a $4,000 grant, your budget must be at least $4,400. So we're asking for a 10% match. It's nothing. And generally your budgets are way more than that. But just to let you know, an $8,000 grant would require an $8,800 budget. So $800 into that. We are going to ask that you keep production or keep records and financial records, because we will be at the end of the period asking for receipts to show how you spent that money. We ask that you be available through email or phone calls, and we will come to your farm at least once during the year at a time that we all agree upon, just to see how your project's doing, see how things are going, and take some pictures, and just your cooperative extension agent will come along with you, and we'll go through that. The business plans, like I said, there will be a business plan requirement. And again, if you've never written one before, that's fine. We're going to help you do it. We're going to help you get a good one together. So that is part of one of the requirements of receiving the grant. We do have some year-end paperwork that I mentioned before, so you will be responsible for some year-end paperwork. We also will give you a sign that you can use to promote the AgOptions program and Tobacco Trust Fund, just showing that it's really important that people know that the grant and the cool work that you're doing on your farm, where it came from, so that the General Assembly keeps giving Tobacco Trust Fund money and we can keep giving AgOptions grants years after years. And we will put you on our website. We will yell at the top of our lungs how wonderful you are and how great your project is. So if anybody out there has a top secret project that they don't want anybody to know about, this is probably not the program for you to be in, because we will sing your praises in the years going forward. And just, there aren't a lot of other Tobacco Trust Fund funded projects out there, but just know that if there are any, you can only receive one of those at a time in a funded year. So if in 2022 you received an AgOptions grant and there was another opportunity for something for you to get in 2022, you would just either have to wait till 2023. I know some people got an ASAP grant that's funded by Tobacco Trust Fund, but they have it this year, so that's 2021, so you wouldn't have to worry about 2022. So at this point, what I'm going to do is go through the application. We're going to go through the application question by question and just talk a little bit about what we're looking for in the application. So just some general information before we get started. These grants are considered taxable income, so we will be filing a 1099 to the IRS. So just keep that in mind when you're filling out your application. I know some people have LLCs. Some people just note that at some point we're going to want to know who we're going to pay, and that this will be taxable income. Because you're spending it on expenses on your farm and you're probably filing as a farm, those expenses get applied towards your grant. So usually it comes out in the wash tax-wise, but just want to let you know it will be taxable income. And just please make sure when you're filling out the information on the whole application that you're doing it in the most legible and accurate way possible, because it is really important that if we need to get a hold of you to ask for a question, that we have the right phone number or right email address or something like that. So I know that's kind of basic information, but it's important because we want you to have every advantage possible to be able to get a grant. And if we had the wrong phone number and couldn't get a hold of you, and that was the reason why you didn't get the grant, that would be a real big bummer. So don't want that to happen. So you will notice that in the very first part of the application, we are asking for all that contact information. Like I said, please be as accurate as possible on that. If by some chance you live in a different county that your project is in, we really want to know what county your project is in. So your mailing address might be different than your physical address of your farm, so that's why we have that on there. A lot of people ask me that, but that's why. And then we start asking some questions about your farm. And remember the part when I told you about priority giving to legitimate farm businesses. This is the part where we start right from the beginning, learning a little bit about you and your operation. And remember, nobody that knows you will be reviewing your application. So we are we have a very strict conflict of interest policy. So if a ag agent was on your farm and knows you, they may say, I can't review this one. So remember, they don't know anything about you. So every answer that you start giving in this application is beginning to help them know a little bit more about you in your farming application or your farming business. So the first questions, these are going to help determine if you're a legitimate farm business. And again, this is just the difference between a hobby farmer versus someone who's making money on their farm. So we're asking you if you have a Department of Revenue tax exemption number. Some people do, some people don't. None of this stuff precludes you from getting the grant. It's just, it helps us and it helps with the scoring. You get a point if you do. Do you have a Farm Service Agency number? We know you work with Farm Service Agency. Put that there, that gives you a little priority. Do you file a Schedule F or equivalent Schedule C? Do you file as a business? Do you file as a farm business? If you do, let us know. And again, that gives you a little bit of priority. What percentage of farm income do you get generated from you and your farm? Again, this is because we're giving a little bit of priority to folks who are more full-time farmers. Again, if you're not, or you are a full-time farmer, but you're still not getting the income off the farm, that's fine. It's just, again, this helps us determine that. 50% and more will give you some priority. Briefly describe your participation in leadership grower associations. So we want to know that you're connected with the agricultural community as a whole. So, and I know things have been tough in the last couple of years because there hasn't been the same kind of in-person farmer meetings and conferences and stuff like that. But anything that you have attended or, online workshops, pesticide certifications, did you go to the ASAP Farming of Business conference? Do you have to participate in any field days? I know that Extension does field days. Anything that can show that you are connected to the farming community as a whole, that goes in this section, and that will help get you some points too to show that you're an involved farmer. Then we're going to ask you about your farming history. So again, this is starting to give our reviewers an idea of what you sell, how long you've been doing it, or how long you've been farming. So different farms, everybody's so different, and our farms in Western North Carolina are completely different from small family farms to larger ones. So we're giving you two different ways to show this to our reviewers. One way is in a little, a chart. We're just asking you, what do you sell? What services do you offer? Who do you sell those to? And what are your dates of business? So that makes sense for some farmers and some farming businesses. Then we give you a narrative part. And this is just to let you tell our reviewers a little bit about you and your farming history. Did you grow up on a farm? Did you go to school for farming? How long have you been farming? What are your goals? What does farming mean to you? It's a good way for you to let the reviewers know right at the beginning of your application who you are and what farming is in your life. You'll also notice that this question is the first one where we've asked you for a narrative, and it's the first one that has a suggested word link. So this is number 7 on the very first on page, help me, page 3. Page 3 of the application. It says 375 words maximum. Are we going to count every single word in this application? And if it's 376, we throw it in the trash? No. But it gives you the idea of how much information we're looking for. We're not looking for a 10-page history on your farming, a 10-page write-up on your farming history. We're looking for about 375 words. If you're using a word processing document, it's really easy, like Word, to figure out how much the words are. You'll know if it's too much. So again, your chance to tell us a little bit about your farming history. And then number 8 is if you do have any tobacco history on your farm, if you grew it, if your family grew it, if family grew it on the farm where you're farming now, Please answer these questions. Again, it's going to give you a little priority in our process too. So that's pretty much the first section of the application. Information about you. These are kind of objective. When our reviewers are reviewing this, is objective. Either you have it or you don't. You have tobacco history, you don't. You have the numbers, you don't, and that's really easy for them to figure out the scoring there. Then we get into the second section of our application, and this is really the meat of the proposal. Number one is pretty much, what are you proposing to do? So provide a description of what your farm project is that you are asking for this grant money to help fund. 750 words. So a little more here, but again, it's going to be very important that you are clear, concise. Keep in mind again that the reviewer doesn't know you, but they do know agriculture and they know farm businesses. So if you're doing something like trying to increase the genetics of your herd, you're not going to have to go into all the details of that, but they're going to know what that is. But if you're doing something that's maybe a little different, there's this one project that they were doing. It's a paper pot planter. It's kind of a new technique that a lot of people don't know about. So for that one, they spent a little more time on that one talking about the technique of that. So it depends on which project you are. Again, this is where your ag agent's going to come in and be very helpful for you to help review. They'll be able to review this and say, we know this part. You don't have to worry about talking about this part. What we want to know is, what are you going to be buying with the grant money? How is that going to be instrumental to getting your goals done? So again, this is an overview of your project. What is your project going to do? How is it going to fit in with what else you're doing on the farm? If you're just expanding, do you have the capacity to expand to 2 more acres of berries? If that's what you're proposing. If you're going to be building a structure on your farm, maybe it's a cattle handling facility. Do you have the expertise to do that? Oh, you're going to say in there, we're going to hire somebody to do this. Have you been to another farm that's like yours? That I've seen something similar to this. So that is what you're going to do for this one. By the way, all of the information that is behind me on this PowerPoint is on our website too, under grant writing tips. So it's all up there in writing too. So in case you're not getting all this down. So basically, yes. What is the grant money going to be spent for? So many times I will read a description project and they describe what they're doing, but they never really say in the description what they're buying and how that's going to be helpful to the project. So make sure that includes that too. Again, 750 words. This is your part to have a little more leeway to talk about the project. But again, clear, concise is what our reviewers are looking for. They are looking for the information. They are not looking for fancy flowery language. In fact, they will be suspicious of fancy flowery language. They want to know the details. They want to know the down and dirty. What are you going to do with for this grant? What are you proposing? Okay, number 2, what are the anticipated outcomes of your project? 500 words, so a little more here. Maybe you want to bullet point these. Maybe you want to do number 1, number 2, number 3. Format doesn't really matter here. Again, however it's easiest and clearest to get your information across to the reviewers, that is what we are looking for. So we're looking for outcomes. So what do you expect this project what do you expect some outcomes? Is it going to increase your income? How is it going to boost your existing operation? Will there be any other farmers that benefit from this project? Are you trying to reach new customers? Are you trying to tap into new markets? What are you really hoping to accomplish with this project? And some people break this into short-term outcomes and long-term outcomes. So maybe immediately this is what we're hoping to do. We want to be able to, increase profits by 10%, or with this freezer, we'll be able to reduce the waste. We won't have product spoil now. We'll be able to reduce that by 30%. The reviewers like to know that you've done your research. So they like to see numbers. They like to it's good to say, oh, we're going to make a lot more money with this project. But what they really want to hear is, we've done the research and we're going to be making 20% more money off of this investment. That's what they're looking for. So the more details you can have in these outcomes, the better. And again, it can be bulleted, it could be 5 things, it could be 10 things, whatever makes sense for your project. Number 3, how do you plan to market or sell your project? So again, we are assuming you're selling something to make income for your farm, whether it's a product, service, or something. So this is the part where you get to tell the reviewers where you're selling now. Where do you hope to sell to? Who's agreed to buy your product? You know, if you're a raising beef cattle and you already have a restaurant that says, if we love your beef, if you produce it, we'll buy it. Let the reviewers know here that this restaurant said that if we produce that, they'll buy it. That's great. What is the demand for your product and service? How do you know you're going to be able to sell it? You know, do you sell out of your lettuce by 10 o'clock at the farmer's market every week, so you know that if you had triple the amount, you'd be able to sell it? Those are the kind of things they want to hear here. They want to be satisfied when they're reading your proposal that you've got a good plan. They want to read this and be like, heck yeah, that's a great plan. If they produce that more, they're going to sell that, no problem. So that is your job here. And again, it's 250 words. It's not that much information, but again, they like detail. So we sell to 5 local markets is great. You name them, it's even better. Have you considered more than one market in case an avenue is blocked? COVID was a really good example of being able to have different markets and being able to be nimble. So they're going to just want to know that you've got a diversified plan in marketing. And again, everybody's project's going to be so different that this answer is going to be so different depending on what you're selling. So again, your ag agent's going to be very helpful. And just basically show that you've done research in your markets. Again, they want to be confident when they read this that they feel good about your plan. And literally, I've seen answers on this part, like the answer is Ingalls. Like that's been the answer to this. That's not a good answer. It needs to be a little more information than that. So it's use your 250 words as best as you can. Question 4. How will this project enhance or increase your capability to continue farming and increase the long-term economic viability of your farm? So in the beginning, I had mentioned that one of our goals is to keep farms farming and to keep you farming. So this question really speaks to that. We want to know how this grant is going to help your farming business so that it will keep you farming. Now, a lot of times people use that outcomes question, the number 2 question, to focus on short-term outcomes, and they'll use this number 4 question to focus on the long-term outcomes of it. And things that I know that are powerful when it comes to this question is if you're looking to give your farm to the next generation. That's really important. We'd love to hear that the farm's going to stay and that's your plan. Or this project is going to be able to allow you to keep farming for 2 more years longer than your current business plan. Or this will provide your business the opportunity to be able to be stable. If it's a piece of equipment that's going to change the outcome of your business, this is the place to say, without this equipment, we'd just be struggling. But now that we've got this, we feel like we've got a firm grip and we're going to be able to just keep going now for the long term. So that is the kind of answers we're looking here again. And again, they're all directly related to the mission of our program. So that's what we're looking for. And then that takes me to the last question, which, believe it or not, is the last narrative question that we're going to ask you. How can your project provide demonstration to the rest of the agricultural community? Again, we mentioned that that's one of our goals. We want to help inform the community. So what are you doing on your farm with this project that might be applicable to somebody else? This was really important for transitioning tobacco farmers, because if you were doing something that could be successful and then another tobacco farmer saw it and they could do it, that was the intent. But now what we've seen over the years, like I mentioned, that paper pot transplanter, which was a very interesting way of seeding your plant starts in some paper trays that are then fed into this machine that you pull behind you, and they just plant right behind you from these paper trays. It's really cool. We had somebody do an AgOptions grant on that. They did YouTube videos. They did all kinds of ways to get that out and show the world. And we had 2 or 3 different people want to do that, call us and want to do that, and said that's a perfect solution for them and their farm. So that's the kind of what we're looking for here, is how are you going to be able to show others what you're doing on your farm so that others might benefit from doing that. So sometimes, again, with social media now, that is a great way to show your project. Folks have done awesome photo books that they put at the farmers market just to show like what they did with their project. Extension might have a field day over at your place. We had an herb drying project over in Madison County, where I know the Madison County Cooperative Extension would do field days over there and bring people in and show them their operation and show how they grow from the field to drying to packaging. So how could your project, how can you, what kind of ideas that you have? And again, a lot of times you're like, I don't have any idea. Your ag agent might have some great ideas of what we're doing. And again, it's a proposal. We're saying, we want you to say, here's what I think I'll be able to do. That's what we're looking for. Any questions? I know I'm going fast, but okay. So that's pretty much the narrative part of the application. So not a lot of questions, not really a lot of writing, but it's important to be clear, concise, get your points across. And again, any way that you can do that is the best. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the kind of mechanics of your project. So what is your timeline? So the next section on number 6 is to provide a timeline. And this is just looking at a year ahead. Say you got the grant, get the check in January. What are the steps that you'll be taking throughout the year to accomplish your goals? And this is important to our reviewers because, again, it's another way that you can show the reviewers that you have a plan that you know is going to work. And it's also important that you look ahead to see what other things are going on the farm, because the number one comment and feedback I get back from AgOptions recipients every year when we ask them, what might have you done different? They said, timeline. I forgot that I'm actually running a farm and I'm operating my farm while I said I was going to do this project. And that sounds great when you're proposing it, but when you get into doing it, they're like, I wish I would have looked at my timeline a little better and really where are the times where I'm going to be busy and figured in how I'm going to get this project done. So this is your chance to really lay that out in a timeline. It's going to help you with your project, but it's also going to show the reviewers that you've got a timeline that can work. And they know, they'll look at it and they'll say, there's no way they're going to be able to get that done in 1 month. There's no way. So show that you've done some research, and it's a balance between how much information to include here. Again, we don't need every single step, every day by day what you're doing. But I have, again, seen prepare the ground, plant, water, harvest. That's maybe a little simplistic. I know that is what you're doing, but again, they want a little more clue in this timeline about how you are going to go about doing your project, especially if you're going to be ordering equipment, because what 2021 has showed us is that you think you're going to get it in 2-3 months, you're not going to get it in 2-3 months. So have a good plan if you're going to be ordering something, when you're going to get that ordered and when you think you might get it, and have a realistic timeline when it comes to that. Any questions about timeline? Okay, here's the part that everybody loves. Most favorite part, the budget. And if you've applied for an AgOptions grant before, probably longer than maybe 3 years ago, we have enhanced the budget section, and it's more as a financial plan section for you. So what we're really wanting to, one of the key determinations of projects that end up being successful, I mentioned this before, was A, did they have a business plan? And B, did they have a solid financial plan? So we want you to have thought about this just a little bit right now. With this project that you're doing, what is a enterprise budget, which is mainly just what are your expenses and what are your your costs and your income going to be that you project, because this is all projected, that you're going to be able to achieve for this project. It's a simple exercise, but it's something that can really show that if this project is going to be profitable or not. So many times when you sit down with a pen and paper and you have this project proposed, at the end you're like, holy cow, I'm not going to make any money, So this is worth you taking some time to work through it. It doesn't have to be overly detailed. It just has to be realistic. And again, your ag agent can help you. And what it is this first page on page 7 is more like a worksheet for you. It's a worksheet for you to figure out if these expenses that I buy, this is the income I expect, and look, this is how this project is going to help my business become more profitable. Maybe it's a cost savings. Maybe your project is not so much about increasing income, it's about cutting costs, but that's also something to show. If you're going to cut on fuel costs, if you're going to buy a grain bin and you don't have to run and buy bags of feed, every other week because you can have the grain delivered one time for months, show that that's going to cut down my expenses. I'm not going to have to pay for fuel. I'm not going to have to get my truck out. I'm not going to have to lug these bags of grain up to to feed the animals. So this is your area to show how this project is going to financially have an impact on your farm. So this first page is kind of a work page that is going to help point you to the next section, which is the budget. What are you asking for? So again, if you're applying for a $4,000 grant, and our categories this year are going to be $4,000 and $8,000. If your project is for $4,000, you're going to be putting in an irrigation system, and that's going to solve your problems. And you're not going to be able to you're going to have to, lug that water anymore or fill those totes anymore. You're going to have a dedicated water system now. What are those elements that are going to be part of that irrigation system that you're going to be paying for? And remember, if you're applying for a $4,000 grant, your budget needs to be at least $4,400. If you're applying for an $8,000 grant, your budget needs to be at least $8,800. And that's because that's what we're going to ask you to show at the end of the project that you spent. So show that you've done your research, just like every other part of this application. It doesn't have to have every nut, every bolt, everything that's going into your project, but show that you've done some research and that that you're going to need this many feet of irrigation line, this many nozzles, you've thought it out. You have a plan. I'm going to irrigate an extra acre on the farm. This is what I need. If it's a construction project again, maybe include an estimate. If it's an equipment purchase, we've had folks that have gotten estimates and included that with that. That's a really great way to show you've done your budget. Again, we understand that it's a guess at this point. We want it to show that it's been an educated guess, that you've done your research on it. And again, we're not going to hold you 100% to this should you get the grant. We understand that, things change and, budget items change and things go up and down. So don't think that if whatever you write in here, you're going to have to follow 100%. We get it. We're going to hold you to your project and make sure that you do the project that you submit. But that budget, again, is an estimate. If you are applying for the $8,000 grant and you're going to be building a chicken coop and you literally put chicken coop $8,800, again, that's not going to cut it. People do that. So show a little bit more research that you've actually put some time and thought into the budget. We'll also let you put some in-kind dollars too. It's always really reassuring to the reviewers when they know that you have what it takes to get the project done. So a lot of times if you're doing a project, the folks that are applying will put maybe their labor in here. I'm going to spend extra 20 hours a month on just this project. So that's what I'm going to be putting into it. I already have half the lumber for this thing I'm building, so I'm going to contribute that. That's what I'll be contributing to it on top of the 10% match. I have a tractor, so I'll be able to lay that that plastic with the plastic layer that I'm looking for. I already have the tractor. So, you know, just whatever you want to put in here is to show that you've got, it's not, again, another opportunity just to show you've got what it takes to get this project completed. And then income. So again, income can be tricky again, because not everybody's project is going to be about increasing income. It might be cost savings, but a lot of projects are about increasing income. So this is the part where we're going to ask you, you know, if you're trying something brand new and it's a brand new value-added product that you're putting out, you're doing pickles, you know, you're going to grow the cucumbers, you're going to do the pickles with them. What are you going to charge? How many do you think you're going to sell? And how do you know that? What are you basing that on, you know? And you may have talked about that in your marketing section. You might have said, you know, we've experimented with selling pickles at the farmer's market. We sell out every single time and people tell us they want more. We were selling them for $6 a jar and they were flying off the shelf. We probably could charge $7 and sell this many. So you may have talked about it in the marketing section. You may not have talked about it in the marketing section. If you haven't, we want you to talk about it here. So tell us a little bit about that in those income numbers. So many times we get income numbers here and I see the reviewers calling people and they're like, do people really pay $12 for apple cider? You know, include some information so that we're not guessing on that. Because again, our agents are knowledgeable, but we don't know every single thing about everything. So this will give you we're asking you to do a 2-year projection. Again, if you've done a business plan or you worked a little bit on your enterprise budget in that worksheet, that should be pretty easy to do. But we just want to see what you're predicting your income or cost savings. Again, maybe it's cost savings and that can go here too. So that's a perfectly valid place to put that information. Okay, so that's pretty much it. What are you going to do with your project? What are you going to expect to get out of it? How are you going to sell or market your project? How is it going to keep your farm going? How are you going to tell the rest of the world about your project? What's your timeline? What's a reasonable budget? And how much income do you think you're going to get from it? So that's what we just gone over. So the last part of this is important because this is other information that we're going to require for your application. So again, like I mentioned, you will have a cooperating, we call it a cooperating agent. That is one of our agents at your local cooperative extension center that they will partner with you, which means they'll help you with your application. And then they're also going to send us a separate evaluation of your project. So if you've been working with cooperative extension, that's great. If not, that's okay too. You've got plenty of time to get a hold of them. And our agents are great. And if they don't know you and know your farm, they may want to come out. They may want to talk with you on the phone. They want to learn a little bit more about you. But that's just one of the benefits of having a relationship with cooperative extension is they'll be able to do that. So you'll name them. But then on top of these cooperating agents, we also are giving you an opportunity to submit some letters of support. So these letters will enable you to get some more points, but these letters are also from folks that will be helping you with your project. So it might be a buyer. A buyer is a great example of a letter of support. If someone's going to be buying it, have them write you a letter. The most important thing about these letters is they're not just character references. Lisa is a great farmer. I think she'll be a great AgOptions recipient. That's great. That's not going to get you a point. What we want is Lisa is a great farmer. She's been over to my farm 2 or 3 times to look at how I'm doing this greenhouse project. I'm more than happy to come over and consult with her and help her get her set up and be a resource for her. Oh, that's how that person's helping you. If it's a buyer, if they produce this sheep yogurt, we'll be buying it and selling it in our store. Maybe it's another extension agent. Maybe you've worked with an area specialist agent. They can write you a letter of support. Your cooperating agent doesn't write you a letter of support because they do a different evaluation for you. But really, it's just anybody that has been helping you. And again, what this does is it shows the reviewers that you're part of the agricultural community and you've got people that are helping you. It just kind of gives them a little more confidence in your project. And again, if you're like, I just don't know who might be a good letter of support, ask your ag agent. bet you they could help you figure out who it is. So that's that. Then we just ask some information. None of this has any bearing on your grant, but we just want to know if you've ever gotten any other funding from Tobacco Trust Fund Commission. If you don't know, chances are you probably haven't. If you have, you would know, so we want to know that. The next section is only for anybody who has received a grant before. Like I said, you can receive up to 3 grants. If you have received one before, you'll get docked 5 points off of your application. If you have received 2 grants before, you'll get docked 10 points off your application, but you do have the opportunity to gain some of those points back before. You've gotten a grant before, right? Okay, so you need to fill out this section. Has anybody ever here gotten a grant before? Okay, you guys skip this section. If you've never gotten a grant before, do not even worry about this section. Don't fill it out. But if you are, fill it out because I'll be able to gain you back some points. I think up to 3. I can look that up. So, and then because this money comes from the state, it comes from the state to Tobacco Trust Fund, there is this attachment. It's the last page. This page is just saying that you do not owe any taxes to the government and that you don't have any conflicts of interest, like your uncle doesn't sit on the Tobacco Trust Fund board or something like that. This needs to be filled out and notarized. One little catch in this thing. This needs to be notarized when you submit your application. So if you're going to email your application, you can scan it in and send it to me, and that's fine. If you do get the award, I will ask for the original, so keep the original. If you send in the original, or you bring the paper copy by, you're good to go. But at some point, I will need, if you receive the grant, and we do this because it's easier to do it now than to hold you up getting your money and getting it on the other end. So if you do it now, if you get the grant, we can just give you your check. You don't have to worry about any more with that. So that needs to be complete. And then there is a verification that needs to be signed. The same exact thing too. If you're going to do it electronically or that's fine. You can send it in. It doesn't even have to have a signature if you're doing it an email. But again, if you receive the grant, I will need the signed original before we can give you your money. And again, just agreeing that everything that you're submitting is true. You have permission to do all of the project. If you're leasing land and you're fine to do a project on leased land, but just make sure you've got the permission to do that. We're saying you're saying that you do. And also that everything is, just so you know, public information. So again, no secret projects. And then we give you a checklist at the end to make sure all the sections are complete. And what I do as a courtesy too is when these applications come in, I look through them. We look through them. We make sure all the portions are there. If for some reason we notice that the notarized page isn't there, what we'll do is I'll call you. We'll call you, physically talk to you once and say, hey, this section's missing. If you can get it to me by this date, we'll include it. We'll call you once. We'll give you one opportunity to get any missing information to us. And if you get it to us, no problem, we'll do it. But if I don't get it by that date, I do not have the time to call you again. We get over 100 applications and we understand things happen. I had last year one come in and the whole budget section was gone. And so I called them and said, hey, and they're like, oh my gosh, it got caught in the scanner. And they immediately sent it to me, great, no problem, put it in there, boom, good to go. Like I said, want to give you a chance, but the application has to be complete and all the parts need to be there by the due date for it to be considered. If you're going to mail it, the mail has been really kooky lately. So I would either do it by some kind of signature so that you know it's received. Even in that last year, I have FedExes arrive 2 days past when they were supposed to. So just be aware that the whole delivery world is bananas right now, and it may be better for you to figure out how to get it emailed and or drop it off at our offices. We have a drop slot, so you can come anytime and drop it in, as long as it's before 5 o'clock on the due date. So I know that's a lot of information. Here's some contact information for you, and for you on YouTube watching this, you can go to our website for all of this. But basically, I'm Jennifer Ferre, and Dana Brown is at the back. She checked you in. She is our agricultural programs coordinator, and she'll be assisting and helping with all this. So any questions can be directed to either her or me. We have set up a very special AgOptions website or email address. It's WNC. That is wrong, isn't it? It's just AgOptions. That's wrong. Don't look at that. Turn this off. It's agoptions@wncommunities.org. It is correct on the application. That is going to be a dedicated email that any questions or anything that comes in, we will see that immediately. If you had an email from me in the past, you're welcome to use it, but this will probably be your quickest way to get answers, questions answered. Any questions? Yes. So the question was, can a nonprofit? So right now, no, we are not set up. At some time ago, we were able to offer what we call community grants, and those were specifically to nonprofits. But right now, we are set up to do to individual farm businesses. So LLCs, we can do it direct, but right now we're just not set up to do nonprofits. Okay, great. Well, I encourage you all to apply. If you signed in, that's great. We'll let your ag agent know, or the county center know that you were here, so that this could count as your intent to apply. For those of you who are on the YouTube, thank you for joining us as well. I'm sorry that the PowerPoint didn't show out too well, but all the information will be available on our website, and I will make sure that all the information that's on the PowerPoint is available for you too. So I'm going to say goodbye to our YouTube folks. The 3 people.